Okay, firstly, thank you so much. Thank you for the kind introduction. Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Pablo, for being willing to do the second part. And thank you all for coming on a weeknight. I really appreciate you coming. I hope this is useful for you all. The first point I want to make is that growth is good. Growth is good, and marketing drives growth. And personalized marketing drives growth more strongly than any other form of marketing. Too often, I think marketing is very negative on itself. Marketing connects people to goods and services that they wouldn't find as quickly or they wouldn't find at all that improve their lives and make them happy. That grows businesses and allows businesses to exist that wouldn't have been able to exist, especially without personalized digital marketing. That in turn provides jobs for people who work at those companies, which funds a good life for them and their families. And they pay taxes. And those taxes that they pay fund the goods, the services that are provided for us by governments, such as roads and ambulances and all the beneficial things that we get from there being growth in the economy. This is our fundamental system, and it is worth remembering, even if it is not perfect, growth is good and marketing drives growth. Today, I want to talk about how to do well in modern era with modern channels. There are loads of good books out there, such as Ogilvy on advertising, Reality on advertising, Scientific advertising, that teach you how to do great work with the channels that existed before 2000, but there are not as many books out there today, if any, that enable you to do that with the channels that exist today. And so that's what the book that we are releasing as Clic, aquí, I think I said that right, is going to hopefully be for this generation. That is my dream for that book. So there are three key parts to what we're going to talk about today. One is, are we measuring goals or are we just tracking metrics? And as head of analytics, this is something I see all the time with companies I advise and at our company. Two, are we actually moving the needle in what we do, or are we taking credit for what happened anyway? What is our incremental impact? Three, how do we prepare for the AI future? Because I couldn't be up here as a technology executive and not say the word AI 50 times. There are so many dashboards now, and there is so much data. Anyone who works at a modern company sees this, right? There's dashboard on dashboard on dashboard on dashboard. And especially with AI, we are kicking out loads and loads of dashboards every day. But does that dashboard help you actually navigate well? And there are many mistakes on that route which I want to talk about and hopefully help people navigate. The first is, a goal is not a metric. I run data at probably the biggest big data company in the world, and the number of times people say goal when they mean metric, including me, is ridiculous. So what do I mean by a goal is not a metric? The goal is the thing you actually want to achieve. So for Meta, when it was Facebook, when I first joined, what we said was our goal was to connect the world online through our services. Our metric was monthly active users. It was the number of people using us monthly. But monthly active users has a ton of problems with it. We ran into one major problem where we were tracking it on the server. So when a URL got called on the server, we would say, okay, you're a monthly active user. And when we went to phone-based apps, we found that people were calling the server from the code to prefetch newsfeed, so that when people came to the app, the newsfeed was already ready for them, but we were counting that as an active user because the user had called a URL when the user hadn't done a thing at all. So just the exact way that we implemented that counting of that monthly active user metric meant it had a delta from what monthly active user meant, and then it had a delta from what our overall goal was, which was to connect the world online through our applications. There is a gap between goal and metric. Goals are not metric. So what is a good goal? Well, I like to talk about having a great North Star goal, that great shining light that you and your whole company can focus on and come together against. It is the reason for being of the company. So for us, that was connect the world online. For Airbnb, that is about having everyone feel at home wherever they are. That is what they are trying to achieve. Now, how are you going to measure that is a different thing. Now, when you set out a goal should come with trade-offs. It is not prioritization if it doesn't hurt. So when you talk about connect the world online, and then you have a metric of monthly active users, it might be that the next thing is make enough money to sustain the company. That is a very good second priority. A lot of people would argue that's a much better first priority, right? And there were many times in the history of the company when those two came in tension. The obvious example is sales wanted to do these takeovers of the homepage, which MySpace used to do. Who remembers MySpace? Or High Five, or Bebo, or all these different companies, right? Where the Hulk would smash through the home screen when promoting the Marvel movie, jumble everything up, and get in the way of the user taking actions. And it made a ton of money. But it wasn't the right long-term thing for the goal of the company, which was to connect the world online. And so that second priority, we could have made more revenue. And that second priority is very tempting, because there were times when we were not doing well as a company and we needed the money. But we clearly said what our top goal was, and therefore our top priority was, and it hurt. And so often people set a North Star goal for their company of do well online that doesn't actually have any trade-off in it, no prioritization in it, and it doesn't cause them to actually feel pain. Your biggest threat to that top priority is not your 10th priority, it's your second priority. And a good North Star is the company's reason to being, and it makes for a razor that causes real prioritization. How do you then translate it into a metric? Well, the metric is the actual business-linked outcome. It's not some vanity proxy. Back in the day at eBay, most of the companies on the internet used to count registrations. Do you remember that? We'd report number of registered users, and that had no bearing on whether they were active or not. Completely useless metric, but it was the metric the entire internet reported on in 2005. When I started my career, 2004, 2005, everyone published registered users. Now they talk about active users. The first company to make that distinction at scale was Meta. So the metric has to not be a vanity proxy. Registered users is vanity, active users is not vanity. It needs to be precisely defined. That example I gave you of client-side versus server-side logging giving us a different number for monthly active users. Those details matter. It needs to be time-bound. Do you care about daily? Do you care about weekly? Do you care about monthly? Do you care about annual? Different businesses will have different metrics for that because they work on different rhythms and different cadences. And it has to be decision usable. So again, I've run into so many metrics where people say, you know what, we're going to throw the kitchen sink in the metric. One of my favorite was meaningful social interactions. Because we want people to interact with each other meaningfully on Meta's properties. We do. And so what we did was we multiplied comments by 5, we multiplied messages by 10. We only multiplied the comments by 5 if they were 3 tokens long or longer. And then we did likes were 1. And then we aggregated those all up and we created a metric to try and actually focus on giving people meaningful social interactions, but that metric was almost unusable because of all the multiplications and additions in it that made it just not a very actionable metric, and you had to decompose why the metric moved before you did anything with it. It needs to be decision usable when you do it. Now, once you have your metric to describe your North Star goal, you hit Goodhart's law like a train. And Goodhart's law is much longer than this when you look it up on Wikipedia. But it basically means when a metric becomes your target, it ceases to be a good measure. Because people will game it. And they will game it deliberately in some cases, and they will game it by accident in other cases. My favorite example is from eBay, where we had confirmed registered users, right? My first trip to Madrid was with eBay to the headquarters in Spain in 2005 to meet Laura Estefani Gonzalez here, which was a lovely experience. We had CRUs, and in our affiliate program, we changed it to ACRUs, and that was great. What we saw was we got less confirmed users, we got more activated confirmed users, they were more valuable for the company, it drove up lifetime value, and it drove up revenue, so it was generally great. But in our affiliate program, when we added this activated step, you had to bid, you had to buy it now, or you had to list an item. And what we found was there were these incentive affiliates, and the incentive affiliates would incent people to take an action. So we suddenly had a huge spike in bids being placed where people won the auction and then they didn't pay. Because as far as the affiliate program was concerned, you were now an activated, confirmed, registered user if you completed the auction. So we were accidentally incentivizing our affiliates to do behaviors like that. It was not a deliberate thing from the affiliate program, but it meant that this measure of ACRUs had ceased to be a good measure because it was being gamed. So the very core I'll say is, you need to have a great North Star that clearly prioritizes things for your company. You need a metric that describes it, but you need to remember that metric will have a gap from the goal, and then once you operationalize it, good arts law means behaviors will game the metric, so you have to have guardrails around it to understand what are the mistakes you're making without realizing it. The second thing I wanted to talk about today was incrementality measurement. So my philosophy at life and my philosophy at work is, I want it to matter that I showed up. I want something to be different because I turned up and I did my job. So for me, in work and in my professional career, incrementality is everything. And by that, I don't mean little increments. I mean incremental impact over what would have happened anyway. In online marketing, this becomes really hard because the default in online marketing is to say someone clicked on an ad and then they bought a product and therefore that click drove that purchase, right? That is a very common thing in how businesses track online marketing today, but it is a total misunderstanding of the marketing funnel. So say you search for or WhatsApp. Everyone in Spain uses WhatsApp. In America, it's only 1 in 3-ish. A little bit more. We're working on it. And so we have an awareness problem, believe it or not, in America for WhatsApp. So I, as CMO of Meta, am trying to promote WhatsApp to people and have them be aware of it. So when someone searches for WhatsApp on Google, and I buy an ad to get them to convert and install WhatsApp, there was tons of work that happened above it and hundreds of millions of dollars of spend to make someone aware of WhatsApp and consider WhatsApp and actually type WhatsApp in the search engine that cannot be attributed to that last click. But in the nature of online marketing, regularly that post-click attribution is what is used. Now for me, it's not just key for my success, it is key for internal success for you to focus on the incremental impact of your work. So today, marketing is very much tracked by finance and procurement to prove defensible returns. When we ran into our layoffs, we ran into this place where finance asked, what did you do for me lately? What impact did you have? And because I had focused on incremental measurement, I was able to show the actual impact of our marketing dollars and protect marketing from steeper cuts to budget than it would have had otherwise. Attribution dashboards are kind of useful for this, but those are those things where there was a click and there was a conversion and you say it was attributed one to the other, but it really wasn't. What really matters is what would have changed because of marketing that could not have happened anyway. So when we actually had our layoffs, the thing that I did with my team, I wanted to turn off all marketing everywhere globally to really make a point, but my team told me that was childish, so we didn't. And what we did was we turned it off in India for Facebook to actually prove that our incrementality measurement was real. And we showed that if we turned off direct response online marketing in India, Facebook would stop growing. Marketing really, really mattered. And because we did it at a whole country scale, I was able to answer that third question. And every marketing team, when they are going to the board, when they are dealing with their CFO, they need to be able to answer that third question of what would have changed if marketing had not been done. So how do you do it? Well, behaviorally, you have all this great attribution data, and I am not saying you throw it away. You should use the attribution data, clicks and impressions for daily steering. But you should run those periodic incrementality studies like I described in India, where you either turn it off or you have the gold standard A/B test lift study, which is the best thing you can possibly do, where you show some people the ads and other people not the ads. We'll talk about that in a bit more depth in a moment, to actually figure out what would happen without marketing in place. And you scale that by having these things called media mix models, which take the results of your incrementality testing, and then they enable you to apply them to the attributed metrics at the beginning. So let's talk about how you do it. At the base level here, you have the click-based attribution stuff, and at the most advanced level, you have randomized control tests. So a randomized control test is the gold standard of any scientific body, right? You expose people to a test, You take a group of people, you don't expose them to the test, that's the control, and you see the difference in what happens between them. That is what you should aspire to if you're running online marketing, not post-click tracking. You can do that with many companies, TikTok, us, Snapchat, various YouTube actually within Google. You can do that with many companies, and so that's good, it's built into the platform. That is the best thing that I think that you can do to track your marketing. But it's not a given that that's available. And it's also not a given that you have the advancement as a company to be able to do it. So if you can't do that, the next thing you want to do is you want to do matched market measurement. So you want to take two equivalent markets. I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to try. It could be Andalusia and Catalonia. Did that work? Okay. You could try Andalusia and Catalonia, and you could put yourself in a place where in Andalusia you promote the Vibes app, or you promote the new glasses, and in Catalonia you don't, and you see how the sales go in those two different regions. Makes sense? No. The markets need to be matched. So if we're already at a place where, say, Vibes has twice as much usage in Andalusia than Catalonia, you're in a place where actually you're going to have very skewed results. So you need to make sure that the penetration or the sales of that thing that you're doing is the same in both the markets. That's one form of matching. The second thing you need to do is make sure the rate of growth is the same in both of those markets. So let's say 10% of people in Andalusia and 10% of people in Catalonia use the Vibes app, which is one of our big AI apps. But in Andalusia, it's growing currently at twice the rate of Catalonia. You again are going to have very skewed outcomes if those are your matched markets, because you've already got one growing at twice the rate of the other. So you need to make sure at a minimum that you are matched on penetration and you are matched on growth rate to be able to say you have matched markets. There's many more details below that. So it's not just a simple, let's run it in one state and not in another state. There's more complexity to it. Okay, well, let's say you can't even do matched markets, which I'm feeling a little bit, jaded if you're a big company and you can't at least do matched markets. But say you're a small business and you don't have the ability to do matched markets. You're running in one town in Andalusia. You're not like in this place. You can still do incrementality testing. You turn the campaign on and off, pre-post testing. Like back in the day at Meta, that was how I tested everything, for two reasons. One, if the impact is so small that when you turn the thing on and off, you don't see it, it doesn't matter to the company. I regularly say this, if you need a data scientist and a microscope to figure out if you had impact, you didn't have impact. Now look, if you're Walmart and you're growing 1% year on year and it moves from 1% to 1.1%, that's actually very, very important, but for most companies that's not true, especially startups, especially small businesses. So that gets us to level 2, which is the second worst, but it's still valid. Turn it on, turn it off, see what happens. And then if you can't do any of the above, you have to do attribution-based tracking, but hopefully I've convinced you that one of those 3 levels above is possible for everyone. And so attribution-based tracking should not be the way that you track incrementality of online marketing. So a case I like to talk about, and this is a case I teach at London Business School, is app installs. So you've got a campaign. You want to get app installs to drive trial starts of your business. In attribution-based measurement, right, the bottom of the pyramid, if we go back, like level 1 attribution-based measurement, it said App Store search ads were the top performer. This could work if you're installing Instagram, this could work if you're installing WhatsApp, this could work if you're installing Facebook. But when an incrementality test was run, could be on-off, that's what mostly is available in the app stores, so when they turned off the search channel, you did not see as big an impact in terms of installs as you would expect from the attribution measurement. Why? Did anyone listen, and does anyone speak English? Go on, why? Someone, go on. Anyone? Give me a why. Be a friendly. This is not audience participation zone. Why did you not see as much incrementality from app install search ads in an app store as you expected when you ran incrementality measurement versus attribution-based measurement? Go. Because it's last click. Yes.
Because the ads were not good enough.
because the ads weren't good enough. That's true. The last click, go.
Because people download but they don't interact.
Because people download but don't interact.
The decision to download came from outside the system.
Exactly. So it's last click, and the thing that actually drove the decision was outside the system. The people searching for the app were going to install it anyway. Like, people who are searching for an app already have high intent. They already, thank you very much, by the way, everyone, for jumping. Thank you for starting it. I appreciate it, and thank you for asking the question. It is really, really important to understand. People searching for the word Instagram or the word Facebook have already decided, most of the time, to install that app. And so you can't put all the credit on that post-click attribution. Make sense? Okay. Now, you can still fail once you've done this. There are so many different failures in measurement. It's so important to do it right. And I think quite often when people bring a dashboard to an executive, they nod sagely and they look at the numbers and they don't query where the numbers came from to make sure they're done right. So you can fail with something called p-hacking. And what p-hacking is, probability hacking. You're doing statistical experiments, that's the whole point of this, and you stop them at a point when it looks good for you. So let's say you're taking 95% confidence that you had real impact. At 95% confidence, this was true. So that means 5%, or 1 in 20 times, it wasn't true. So let's say you run an experiment for 20 days, and on the 20th day, it turns green, and it says you had incremental impact, but every other day it didn't say you had incremental impact. And then you stop the experiment. That is an invalid test, because 1 in 20 days had a green result, and you just happened to stop the experiment on the 1 in 20 days, the result was green, and it said it was incremental. That is an incorrect test. You should always pre-register how long you're going to run an experiment for. 2, let's say you run 20 tests, and 19 of the tests say you didn't have impact, but 1 said you had impact. And you throw away the 19 that said you didn't have impact, and you take the one that said you did have impact. 1 in 20 again, 1 in 20 times with stats, you're always going to get that result. So again, that is p-hacking. In the middle of the test, you said you were going to drive up active users, and you actually found that number of comments went up. So you changed your metric, and you were testing 20 metrics, and that one metric turned green. Can be random noise again. You pre-register what is the metric you're going to move before you do an experiment. Instead of saying 5% or 95% confidence, you just publish 80% confidence. So you're at 1 in 5 times it's wrong. Again, you have to say what your confidence interval will be ahead of time, and generally 95% is the minimum bar that you should be taking. So you need guardrails. You need to pre-register your hypothesis. What am I going to move? When am I going to move it within? You need to be clear what that KPI is that you are going to move, and you need to report all the outcomes when you're explaining to people what happens. There's a lot of complexity to doing incrementality right, and if you are a business leader managing a team, or you are a marketer working with a team or doing the experiments yourself, it is important you do this stuff right, because the value compounds when it's right, and the value just isn't there when it's wrong. And it really isn't that hard. So 4 clear takeaways for this part, and then there's one more part, and then we can do some questions. The first is, you need to anchor everything you do in a clear North Star. Otherwise, you'll optimize for what's easy, not what matters, and you'll keep changing, because your second priority is probably pretty good compared to your first priority. You need to run the best test that your constraints allow. Don't give in to post-click attribution. Make sure that you actually run some kind of experiment, even if it's as basic as turning the thing off and turning it on again and seeing what happened. But ideally more advanced than that. 3, if you need a data scientist and a microscope to see if you had impact, you didn't have impact. It didn't matter. And 4, nothing beats culture. All of these things are solved if you build a culture where the team is asking the question, what impact did I actually have? And the team is hungry for answering that question. If you build that culture, all of the other problems do go away, and it's just a question of becoming the greatest you can be at it. So culture definitely eats everything else. Okay, I hope you have your shot glasses ready to drink whenever I say AI. It's moving fast. I love this graphic. We're all the little person on the left-hand side. And I always say to people, AI is a threshold technology. And what I mean by that is, in the labs, we see AI getting better and better and better at tasks. And look, I've been watching for years AI getting better at coding. You know, it was pretty clear it was getting better. But the experience of when it crosses the threshold that it's better than you at it is quite different than watching the charts get better. And so you've got these lines here, and AI is crossing each of these lines, from the intelligence of an ant to the intelligence of a bird to a chimp to a dumb human to Einstein. And the angle at which it's improving is really accelerating. 6 months ago, I couldn't vibe code. And look, I've got a master's in physics. It's a real one. I also have a fake one. I can explain that later. I programmed at university. I ran some very large websites. I am a data scientist. I am capable of programming, but I couldn't get over the hump 6 months ago of vibe coding. Then, over Christmas, this chap called Peter Steinberger from Austria, so a European, released this thing called OpenClaw. OpenClaw is an orchestration layer or a harness which controls multiple different agents, and it made it so much easier to interact with these things. And now I can vibe code by sending it messages on WhatsApp. It completely changed the game for me. AI is getting really, really fast, and really better, really, really fast. And so it's important that you are thinking about that. So given it's getting better, which adventure do you want to pick? And I actually think it is really important you have a working model about what AI is to become. So on the left-hand side here, we have this thing called AI 2027. It's an essay, but it's an interactive one where you get to pick your adventure. You can imagine from the picture, most of them don't end well. Scarily, the people who predicted the stuff in AI 2027 have been extremely accurate about the impact of AI over the last 3-4 years. To the extent they talked about the revenue numbers Anthropic are saying they're going to hit, and they were correct. To the extent that they talked about some of the capabilities that are coming out with the Mythos model, and they are correct. So I don't believe it. It is the max doom scenario in many of the outcomes, but I think it's important that you look at it and you understand that's one end of the spectrum of the conversation around AI, and it's smart people saying it. It's not dumb doom mongers. On the other end is the gentle singularity. That's an essay that Sam Altman wrote. It's very positive. It says we're going to get to the singularity where there's self-improving AI. It's going to be incredibly good. And we're going to get to that in a really gentle way that will go, okay, there'll be no problems with society. And in the middle is this essay, Machines of Loving Grace, from Dario at Anthropic, that says, look, it's going to be pretty good, but there are going to be problems and we're going to need to adapt to them. I think it's very important as you think about AI that you think about your world model and you have a view as to what the end game is going to be. I am an optimistic person. I think it's going to be somewhere between Machines of Loving Grace and gentle singularity. I think there's going to be jobs created that we never thought of. I think there's going to be amazing abundance. I think healthcare is going to be improved. I think there are so many things that I'm excited about. But I can't tell you what to think. You should have an opinion, and you should develop your own opinion about where this is going, because it will shape all the rest. Technical skill is no longer a bottleneck. And I think it's really important we all internalize that. Like, fine, I have a physics degree, but like, I'm a senior executive who doesn't really do any real things anymore. And I can now do real things again, which is really exciting. And it's because the technical skill has been taken out of it to learn things. Like, at home, I've trained my own model that runs on my security cameras and actually looks for intruder alerts and has been perfect for the last month and hasn't missed a single person or vehicle entering my property. I am building a LiDAR archaeology feature detection system in my spare time because I'm on the board of an archaeology company and I just love it and it's really interesting. All of those things are now within reach because of these technological changes, not because I became smart suddenly in January. The hard thing is problem selection. The hard thing is making sure you've got the right data going into the model. The hard thing is the creativity layer. That is where the bottleneck is now. And for marketing, AI has changed a lot. It's changed media buying. If you buy an ad today off of us, off of Google, you're using AI. People don't internalize social media has been completely disrupted by modern AI. TikTok could not exist without modern language models because it connects you to content you are not connected to in any way. Right? Before, social media relied on following, friending, joining. You never saw a piece of content on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Twitter, whoever, YouTube, where you hadn't followed, liked, deliberately navigated to that content. Now on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat has it too, all of these different companies, we're showing you unconnected content because we have a semantic understanding of the content and a semantic understanding of you. Social media ranking has been completely disrupted by AI in the last 5 years, 6 years, and so has ad ranking. So if you buy ads as a marketer today, you are using AI. Secondly, creative production. If I want to create 30 different versions of a direct response ad with these glasses in it, we use AI now. We do use people and AI, but we scale to do stuff we could never do before without AI producing creative. Analytics speed. I can type a question into my phone, Google chat with our internal AI system, and I can get an answer on my phone in a board meeting to a question a board member has asked about a marketing campaign in minutes. It has totally changed the speed of analyzing the outcomes of marketing campaigns, and then it has changed the reporting and synthesis. All of this has been changed today. The future is here, it's not evenly distributed yet. All of that can be done. But it still doesn't do everything well, and it's unclear it's going to in the near future. Creativity is fundamentally a hard computer science problem, that there are different people with different opinions on how it will be derived. Right? Folks like Jan LeCun are saying, we're not going to get there without fundamental invention. Folks like Sam Altman are saying, this is just going to be an emergent property of scale. Nobody knows yet what is true, but for now, creativity is not solved. You need to pick the right objective. You need to understand the human nuance. AI does not replace taste and judgment. AI emphasizes how important taste and judgment is. Paul Graham, the famous founder of Y Combinator, has an incredible essay on taste, and it's really important. And trust-based relationships, person-to-person sales, where humans matter, not being replaced by AI anytime soon. So as a company, how do you get ready for AI? Thank goodness I'm on time. How do you get ready for AI? The first thing you need is you need a modernized code base. You need a code base that's in distribution, a code base that can be interpreted by the AI. How do you get one of those? Honestly, one of the first things you can do is just open up the AI and ask it. Sounds crazy, but you open up Meta AI today, and I'm so proud I can say that now with our new models. 2 weeks ago, I may not have been able to say this. You open up Meta AI today, and you say, I have a code base like this. How would I migrate it to be AI ready? It'll tell you. It'll give you the steps. So I would start by doing that. In most cases, it involves uploading it to an AI and having an AI suggest how you can rewrite pieces of it step by step by step. Second, you need evals. What are evals? They're evaluations. They're just a piece of data that's true. So for example, for that camera security system I built, I've tagged 1,000 examples of someone actually walking into my house in a tagging system where I asked the AI to write it for me. I said, could you please write me a review and then show me the images? And I just said, yes, you got that right, no, you didn't, yes, you got it right, no, you didn't. It's really quick. That created an evaluation set on which I could train. Think about what evaluation sets you have in your business where there is a direct, factually true thing, and you can actually have the AI train on it. That data is going to be really important. Then you need feedback loops. Now, I don't mean evaluation sets when I say feedback loops. Let's say you are producing creative. You need a critic loop. This is now being built, and this is one of the reasons these harnesses are so good, is because I didn't know you needed a critic loop. I wasn't aware of that 9 months ago. But what you do is you ask the creative tool, hey, build me a great ad for Oakley glasses where someone is running in the local park past the Bernabeu, or wherever. That didn't go well. The AI will produce it, but it'll probably not be very good. And you can tell the AI that's not very good, or you can have another AI look at it and say, do you think this is good? Give some critical feedback. And then you just run that loop a couple of times before a human reviews it. That works for creative, that works for code, that works for answering general intelligence questions, that works for almost anything. So have a loop that works with a critic in it. There are other loops that exist. Loops are your friend in AI. And finally, what we're finding is there's something of a barbell distribution. New people entering the workforce who've played with AI the whole way through their university career are doing really well. Experts in domains who have grabbed onto AI and they have the expertise, the taste, the creativity to know what to do, they're doing very well. You want to pair people who know how to use AI with people who are domain experts so that you can get the most out of AI. So those are the 4 things I'd recommend for a company, including asking Meta AI things now, because our thing is better. When you do all of this, though, for AI, you have to build for where the puck is going to. Sam said publicly a couple of years ago, if you build for where AI is today, we will, I think it was bulldoze you, it could have been steamroll you, it wasn't the best PR-approved language. But it's right, AI has changed a lot, and you need to look at the trajectory of it getting smarter, of it getting better, and you need to think about what are the things it's good at, code, logic, etc. What are the things it's bad at? Creativity, original thinking, etc. And you need to build that it's going to get better and better and better at the things it's best at, because if you don't, you are going to be behind when you get there. As an individual, I would say the way you get better is you use tools on a daily basis. Don't even start, just start something. I installed OpenClaw, I'm using Claude Code, I'm trying these tools. Learn enough coding to know the right questions to answer. It's getting so easy, you don't need to know a lot. You really, really, really don't. And just try. Ask it to guide you. Have a context system. I use Obsidian. You can use whatever you want, but have some kind of note app that gives the context you need about your project and your life that the AI will want to use. Just have it written down. It sounds complicated. It's not complicated. It's just a list of text. That's all it is. We have this thing called YAML, yet another markup language, that next to every table in our data lake, we say, here's the things you need to know about this table, and there's a bunch of structured stuff, and then there's some open text which goes, yeah, but there are these odd, weird things. And we actually just put it there in human readable language because the AI is designed to understand it. So having that context document sounds scary, it's not. Go out and ship something. Like if you go away from this lecture and do nothing else, go play with AI and ship something. Go ask Meta AI after this. You know, I've been wondering for a long time how I could have a personal CRM system. Could you tell me how? And just work from there. Like go and do something and train your bullshit detection, because so many people will stand on stage and tell you what AI can and can't do. And if they don't start with, you can just ask it, probably bullshit. So look, for me, I have optimism with skepticism. I think the only path is to be positive by default. I do think you have to verify everything. I think you have to be skeptical, but you've got to go and build something. You have a window right now where you are probably ahead of most of the world. Only like 1 billion people out of 8 billion even use these tools once a month. It's a couple of 100 million use it in a day. These tools are very early in terms of their adoption, but they're very powerful. If you go out and play with them, you have a window that you can take advantage of. So look, what I wanted to say to you today is growth is good. It's not good at all costs, that's not what I'm saying, but fundamentally growth is a good thing. It provides jobs, it connects people to goods and services, it gives people a better life because they can fund their lives with their jobs, it provides taxes. Growth is a good thing, and marketing is a great driver of growth. Personalized digital marketing is the best one there is in the world, and we should not forget it, because it's valuable and it isn't a given that we will always have it. If you want to be successful at it, like doing it well actually requires some skill. Turns out you can ask AI for that as well. But doing it well requires some skill. That includes incrementality measurement and making sure the real impact you have is there. AI will turbocharge everything that's happening in this thing. And so if you have one takeaway from this, it's go out and use these tools. And if you have 2 takeaways, I hope I'm interesting and you might buy my book too. Thank you.